Alright, Katsu Sando, or Japanese fried pork sandwich. These things have become really popular in Japan over the last couple years, and if you give this recipe a try, I'm sure you'll see why, because they are really, really good. And honestly, they're extremely easy to make. So just sit back and let me show you how to do it. Alright, so we're going to start by slicing up some cabbage, and that top leaf was a little bruised, so I just went ahead and removed that. If you have to take off more layers, then obviously go ahead and do that. I remove the bottom part just so that it sits flat on the cutting board, just makes it a little easier. And you're just going to cut it straight into half, and then once you do that, cut it straight into quarters. Once you've got it quartered, you'll see the little white part on the inside. You're going to go ahead and remove that piece. It's kind of the stalk or the stem. Just do that for all of the quarters. Then you will break them in half pretty much into layers. It's just going to make it a little easier to cut instead of cutting like a giant piece of cabbage. And you're just going to try and slice this as thin as possible. If you want to use a mandolin, you can use a mandolin. Or honestly, if you want to buy just bag shredded, I think it's like a coleslaw mix or something, like bag shredded cabbage, you could do that as well. All right, once you've got all of the cabbage cut up, you're just gonna put it in a strainer or a colander and just rinse it in cold water and then just let it sit off to the side, or you can put it in the fridge in the time being. Right, for the tonkatsu, we're going to use 85/15 lean ground pork. And I just prefer ground pork for the sandwich. I think that it works really, really well. I know traditionally tonkatsu is pork loin. You slice it, pound it out to the thickness that you want, and then bread it and fry it. But for this sandwich, I just think the ground pork works better. So you're going to take, this is a pound, so I'm using about a quarter of a pound for each patty. Basically, you're just going to form it exactly how you would a hamburger. We're going to start setting up everything for the frying. So you need 1 cup of all-purpose flour and 1 whole egg. And you can just give that a whisk or use a fork and beat it up like I did here. And then we're also going to use 1 cup of panko breadcrumbs, and that's just the Japanese breadcrumbs. And you definitely want to use those as opposed to like Italian or another type of breadcrumb. And once you've got all of those things measured out, you'll go ahead and season the pork a little bit with some salt and pepper, just lightly seasoned on both sides. And then we'll start dredging for the frying station. So you're going to go from the flour and just make sure it's completely coated in flour. And then once you've got it in the flour, you'll go to the egg, make sure it's completely coated in the egg. And then from the egg to the panko breadcrumbs. And obviously you want to make sure that you got a good coating of those on there, make sure it sticks really well. And honestly, you'll see here, I would definitely recommend using a larger bowl or Tupperware for the breadcrumbs. It was a little tough to get it completely covered, but I made it happen. Now we'll do the tonkatsu sauce. It's going to be a quarter cup of ketchup and 1.5 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, and then a teaspoon of just regular yellow mustard. And that's it. It's pretty simple. You can also buy this sauce in the stores, especially at any Asian supermarket, but it's really easy to make if you've got the ingredients. And now it's time to start frying. So you're just going to take a pan, heat it over medium-high heat, and fill it with probably about a quarter of an inch deep with oil of your choice. I used peanut oil here. You can use vegetable oil, canola oil, whatever you'd like. And then you're just going to go ahead, once that's hot, you want it to be about 350 degrees. You can check it with a thermometer if you'd like. You're going to go ahead and place the pork into the oil, and it's going to start sizzling. Once you've got it, probably about 3 minutes on the first side, you're going to go ahead and give it a flip. And when you're flipping this, be really, really careful. As you can see here, I'm using 2 wooden spatulas to try and keep it from just flipping over and splashing oil everywhere. So that's a handy trick that you can use. After 3 minutes on each side, I'm going to go ahead and give them one more flip and just give it another minute on the first side. And the reason for that is just to make sure that, both sides are equally crispy. Once you've done that, then you'll go ahead and remove them. I'm just placing them on a wire cooling rack, and that's just to keep them, like I said, super crispy. You don't want these to get soggy. All right, so now the pork is done. We're gonna go ahead and get ready to assemble the sandwich. And I'm just using plain white bread, and I know that sounds crazy because especially in the U.S. here, we've gotten accustomed to some really, really fancy breads. But you know, in Japan, that's what they use. It's just plain white bread. And so we're gonna start with a little bit of mayo. I'm using Japanese Kewpie mayo. You can use any type of mayo you'd like. And then you're just gonna go on with a little bit of that tonkatsu sauce that we made earlier, and go ahead and just kind of, you know, flatten, smear those out onto the first layer. And then we'll go in with the cabbage. And honestly, guys, the cabbage is almost the star of the show. I mean, obviously the pork, the fried pork is delicious, but this cabbage, I mean, it adds like this extra crunch to it that's just so delicious. So we'll go ahead and put the pork on top of that, and then we'll go with a little more of the tonkatsu sauce on the other side. I wouldn't put more mayonnaise. I think that, you know, just one side of the mayonnaise is fine, but a little bit of the extra tonkatsu on that top piece of bread, it really makes a difference. And you can flatten this out a little bit, as you can see here. I think they usually press them. They have some type of a press. It's not a heated press, so it's not toasted on the outside, but they usually press it, and then we'll just go ahead and slice it. And as you'll see here, when you look on the inside of this, I mean, this looks awesome. It was so good. I'll give you a little show here. You can see how juicy and how good this came out. And I really think that has to do with using the ground pork as opposed to the pork loin. There you go, guys. Katsu Sando, or Japanese fried pork sandwich. Let me just start by saying that this thing was so good, and believe me when I tell you that plate did not last long. I urge everyone to give this recipe a try. It's so simple and so easy to make, and it's so delicious. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and comment down below and let me know what other videos you want to see. Thanks.